Hi, guys, and welcome to episode 12 of Syncromystic. I'm here with my good friend Wayne McCroy, and today we're going to talk about many things that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. But one of the first things that we want to discuss is I just put out an article called Dayat or Dayath, depending how you pronounce it. But Dayat, DAAT, is data, obviously being an anagram. And I think that this is a really good model to use the Kabbalistic model that they use, that I believe they use, these dark occultists, to show their AI future, which is really where we're heading, which is what Wayne is one of the predominant researchers in this field of where this is actually heading, the Godhead, the hive mind, and all of these things. They're using, in my opinion, the Kabbalistic architecture to work their way up, but they're stuck at this hidden knowledge, which is Dayat. It's in the background, but they can't get to wisdom, and they certainly can't get to understanding. And I put out a clip in it, and I said the reason why it can't understand what it means, like the term "it," is because it doesn't know what it is, because it is a thing. It is an it. And this is kind of, in its way, I know you understand what I'm saying without me actually saying it. Um, so, Wayne, I'd love to get your take on the Dayat, and my theory there is that they're stuck in knowledge. They're not going to get any further than that.
Oh, absolutely. I understand exactly what you were hinting around at with that. And of course, Dayot, if you take that apart, it is an anagram of data. Sounds like is like. It's an old concept that many of these dark occultists who run things in this world utilize all the time. It's the whole principle of etymology, the origins of words, and the interchange between certain syllables of these various words and how you can make some connections with that. Now, most people would miss the connection, but this function of what they call dayot or dayoth on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, this is actually the invisible pillar in the middle, the 11th piece in the puzzle that is the Tree of Life, that they use as a back door or an entrance to get to the back side of the Tree of Life. Now, the front side of the Tree of Life is called the Sephiroth, and the back side would be called the Qliphote. So this is about an amalgamation of good and evil. Once again, it's the unification of opposites, first and foremost, that they talk about. And secondly, this connection dayoth, this is the connection from the physical world to the spiritual realms. It's the connection, it's this gap between man and God. And this is what they are attempting to bridge. So how do they attempt to bridge that? Well, by using artificial intelligence. That is essentially what their plan is. They're using this dayoth or dayot type of an ideology to get there. Now, this represents a lot of different things, this symbol of dayoth or dayot, as it's also called. Now, it's the Lorianic Kabbalah that refers to it primarily as dayot. And many of the other occult systems, like specifically the Thelemite system developed by Aleister Crowley, refer to it as dayoth. And how they see this as the chasm between the spiritual worlds and the physical world. And this is what they refer to as the abyss. It's also known as the primordial void, and I've talked about a lot of this stuff before. Chaos, the underworld, the land of Nod, it all connects into this Daoth system, this whole ideology surrounding Daoth. So, according to Thelema and Aleister Crowley, that in order to get to this understanding and wisdom, to this portion of the spiritual realm where they want to reside, what they call Bina, on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. This represents wisdom. There's Chokmah and Bina, and this Bina is the feminine side of things, the feminine aspect, the divine feminine, and this is what they seek to get because they believe, the Thelemites at least anyway. I can't speak to the Kabbalists in general as far as their belief in this, but you see how it's been ported over by the occultists, and many have similar ideologies to this. So what the Thelemites want to do is they want to cross the abyss and arrive at this place, this pseudo place, I guess you could say. It's a spiritual conception more than anything that is called Bina, where they have the city of pyramids as reported by Aleister Crowley. It's all very symbolic. And these are the kinds of things that they talk about. So they want to get there because they believe then if they can actually cross the abyss, as they call it in their occult ideologies, they can have a sort of reunification with the Godhead and have knowledge, have acquired primordial knowledge and all of these different things and become godlike and become small g create or small c creator beings. And this is what they want to do. So this is a concept that's been taken and kind of puffed out in 100 different directions by the occultists. And one of the primary ones that we have is the Thelemic tradition, which many of the secret society groups of today have now adopted. And this is what they believe and work for. Now, it might be slightly different to these Lorianic Kabbalists, and they might believe something slightly different, but it's all the take on the same thing. It's all about getting to this point where you can have this unified reasoning, this, what's the term I'm looking for? The unification of wisdom and knowledge, and it's the union of these two pillars in Freemasonry when it comes down to it. You have the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity. It's the combination of that. This is when they believe they transcend things like good and evil, and they transcend all of these different facets of the dualistic system we live in. And this is what their aim is and what their goal is. And they see their ticket to get there is by using this Dayot principle, which essentially is a shortcut when it comes down to it. When you look at the old occult systems and the old alchemical systems and things like that, there's no shortcut to having this type of a transcendence experience or having this illumination experience or anything of the sort. There's no shortcut, and everybody's path is different. Well, these people decided that this whole idea of this invisible pillar, which runs through the center of the Tree of Life symbol, as they see it, is their methodology of getting there. So, one of the ways they've done that is they've taken the term Dayot and they've combined it or kind of reified it with the term that we know as data, because it's all about the collection of big data. And they see this as a way to transcend that gap between man and God, or the physical world and the divine world. So they see this accessing this intelligence, this primordial intelligence through artificial intelligence as the way to get there. So essentially they're attempting to build, well, a type of an artificial god, really, with this artificial intelligence, because they want to tap into that knowledge field, that divine field of information. And this is one of the things that it would seem they're trying to do through this use. Now, you have to kind of have a little basic understanding of some of these Kabbalistic traditions and principles. And you could see how many of the occultists have twisted and turned this and turned it into something that works into a path working system, because that's what they primarily view this Tree of Life symbol as. It's a path working system, and you're supposed to walk those different paths, and it's a very long process, but this is a shortcut up the path. And this is what they attempt to do. So, what they have brought out into the Thelemic tradition in the tradition of Aleister Crowley is what they do is they see this crossing of the abyss, this stepping through Daoth, as their last goal before they become what they would call like an enlightened magus or some such thing, or the master of the temple, and all these different appellations that they give to this process. So it's all about the giving up or the destruction of the person's personal ego, and stepping into that place where you can have the divine knowledge and wisdom that goes with that, and arriving at this condition that they call Bina. And in order to do that, they have to face the dweller on the threshold, or the dweller of the abyss, which is known as Karanzan in the Thelemic system. Now, this has all kinds of different meanings and stuff you could apply to it across the board, too. And we may touch on that and we may not. I know this is a lot of information to unpack, and I hope I'm not confusing people, but stuff like this, you really have to look across the board at the different systems of the different occult teachings that relate to this, and it always uses this tree of life symbol from Kabbalah as a an important archetype for doing the things they attempt to do. And this is how they try to explain it in a spiritual type terminology. So they want to step through the abyss, cross the void into this divine revelation, and they think they could do it by their own personal power or by the use of the tools that they design. And one of the tools they're designing to do this, of course, is artificial intelligence and the processing of all this data in this way to get there, to try to invoke this divine wisdom or knowledge from the other side and bring it to light here, where they can manipulate it and use that to get themselves to this elevated level of where they feel that they are the gods of this place. So I hope that makes sense for people out there that are listening.
I'm sure it does, and I think one of the first things that I know that they'll look at, and maybe we can explain this a little bit more, is when you think of Darth or Data or Darth, but it's Darth. You're going to straight away think of Darth Vader, aren't you? It'd be the first thing you think of is Darth Vader, obviously. So Vader means, I just want to add some context to this. Vader primarily means father in Dutch and German. So you're looking at the knowledge, or the father of all knowledge, the father of knowledge. Darth Vader, obviously Luke Skywalker's father, who we find out eventually. Um, but they clash on what I always assumed. From one perspective, I think I'm right, but again, this is several levels to it. On the two cortexes of the brain crossing in the middle, which would be knowledge crossing over left hand, right hand brain, left hand brain, if that makes sense. Left brain, right brain, even that's what I mean. But also in the if what you're talking about there, could these two characters be crossing, blocking one from the other in terms of on that Kabbalistic bridge? And I think straight away when you said bridge, I think bridge over troubled water as well. When I have to look into that song, because that to me is like, okay, now that means something completely different now.
Oh, absolutely. You'll find that in a lot of things, especially nursery rhymes. We might have to do a show on nursery rhymes one day, Richard. That would be a really
Yeah.
interesting thing to take apart. But yes, absolutely. This is what that image of Karanzan represents, this dweller on the threshold, this dweller in the abyss, the keeper, the guardian of the abyss, as they refer to it. That's what this is. This is what stands in the way of the unifications of opposites, or what stands between the combination of lower knowledge as they see it here, or physical reality knowledge, the modern science view of things as we see it, and the spiritual knowledge that comes from the other side. This is what separates the divide and what keeps people from crossing that abyss and getting there. So it's kind of an obstacle we put in our own way. It's once again, it represents the unification of opposites, which is so important to these people in the occult sense. So it's the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and it's the combination of this. And you're spot on when you say, when you hear Daoth, you think of Darth Vader. Well, certainly, because that is where the term Darth actually came from in Star Wars, whether people are aware of that or not. It's taken from Daoth, it's a takeoff of Daoth. And Darth Vader is the Dark Father, it's an archetype. It represents Saturn, okay?
Mm.
The Dark Father. What do we know about Saturn? Saturn symbology. Well, Saturn, he ate his children, remember? So this is what this represents. And there it is. There's so much that is encoded in the Star Wars franchise that it's just not funny. So if you think George Lucas just came up with this science fiction opera in his head, you're mistaken. There is just so much esoteric stuff shoved in there that either he himself had to be initiated in some way into these, or one of these organizations or secret society groups, or somebody who helped him write that had been so. And I've actually done some programs looking at that in the past, where there's interesting connections with George Lucas's wife and stuff like that. But that's a topic for another day. But certainly we have those connections, and the Dark Father, and you know these people are all about the inversion principle. What they seek to unify is the Hokmah and the Bina in
Mm.
the divine realm, which the Bina is the feminine side of the divine feminine, and that is where the magicians say all the power lies. It's all about this archetype of divine feminine, which is your Isis, which is your Lilith, and all those various things that cross the board. So they're talking about Lilith, Samael. You could look at all the different systems and all the different things we've talked about in the past. All these symbols, these different figures represent many of the same principles or archetypes. And that's where you could have a better understanding because when you've seen one, you've seen the other. So we have this notion of the importance of this unification of lower knowledge, as they call it, and higher knowledge. Well, how are they going to bridge that gap? Through the use of data, dayot. And they'll do that with their artificial intelligence algorithms and their quantum computers and all of these things, which allegedly reach into other dimensions to draw forth information, right? Isn't that the claim they make with these quantum computers now? It's actually reaching into other dimensions and pulling data out of those dimensions. Well, this represents the unification of the lower knowledge with the higher knowledge, once again. So, this is it, most certainly what their intention is. Now, are they mistaken in their belief that this could work? I think possibly they're deluded in that way. And who knows, maybe they can actually pull stuff like that off. It's hard to say for sure. We know so little about what it is they're really doing at the topmost levels of these things in the special access programs and stuff that they do with this stuff. So it's hard to say what they're able to achieve and what they're not able to achieve at this point. And it's getting harder to distinguish what's true and what's false with the use of this artificial intelligence. And that's all part and parcel of what they want because it muddies the waters, makes it hard to differentiate what's reality and what is fantasy. And that's right where they want it because then it's easy pickings for them to control the masses. And we see examples of this in the real world just by many of the artificially intelligent videos and stuff that are being produced and pushed online everywhere that people believe are actual videos when they're not. It's all computer generated. And I've seen innumerable numbers of these. And I know I'm kind of long winded here, Richard, but one I've noticed that really bugs me because I've seen this whole operation from the start and to where it's at today is a little topic called Tartaria. And I'm sure you've probably seen this out there. And this is a prime example of where the AI generated videos and stuff have really taken hold and captured people's minds with this narrative, which I've taken apart ad nauseum in the past because it is just a psyop. And I hate to break it to the people out there that are buying into this whole mud flood, great reset in the past 100 years, 150 years, or something like that. And this whole notion of the great Tartarian Empire and all of these things, these advanced technology, civilization that existed in up until the mid 1800s or so, and then there was a big reset. It's all fiction, all of it. It's all fiction, and it's all based upon a mythological archetype, and they've leveraged it against the human mind. These are the kinds of things that I've seen going on for a long time, and now the AI has taken it a step further because if you go on social media, you'll find all kinds of TikTok videos and everything, people talking about Tartaria and this advanced technology that they had and stuff, and showing videos that are all AI generated or taken from actual films and things like that, like fictional movies, and they're passing this stuff off as true, and people are eating it up. And all this does is muddy the waters for real researchers that are trying to get to the bottom of things. Has our history been jacked up? Well, most certainly it has. But there was no great Tartarian Empire, and there was no great mud flood in the mid to late 1800s or whenever they claimed that it happened that did this big reset. And they've just taken things to the extreme with it. And it's all based upon one CIA document. Like I said, I've taken this whole thing apart from the very beginning, from when it first started to manifest as a narrative out there. So this is an example. This is a prime example. This is something to keep people's minds occupied on something that really has no merit to it instead of focusing on the things that we can see going on in the world today. So sorry for my little diatribe there, Richard. I'll let you talk now.
Well, what's fascinating about that is I've interviewed a chap, lovely chap, really nice guy, and he wrote a book about the Satari and stuff, and he openly says and admits to being used to be a Freemason. like used to be CIA and all of these things. Lovely guy. I'm not saying he might well believe in it, but he was openly talking about being a Freemason, and obviously they're very much following the Kabbalah and all of these things. The lower Masons are used actually to create these technology to well, we all are used to create the technology that's going to enslave us. What's really fascinating about what you're saying there is there's so many elements to this. There is this belief in the Kabbalah or the Kabbalistic belief or the mystical belief or the hermetic belief that if you believe something and you make it like an egregore, you make it well known enough people believe it, they can make it happen. So I think a part of that is getting enough people to believe in Tartaria that it becomes real. I think these people genuinely believe they're hijacking the human creativity, which again is what you're talking about with Donald Trump's Stargate, the Project Stargate. You are the Stargate, and I remember you said that to me. You are the Stargate. They're trying to get the creativity that comes through you to create the technology that they can reroute creativity to, but they can't make that technology because only we can do it. So they use us like they use the blue levels of the and blue is the color maybe we'll come on to in a minute, and the blue levels, the Freemasons. They use the lower levels. They can't do it themselves. Now, I think when it comes to Dayat and data and it comes to the Tree of Life, they can't get past knowledge. They can't get past the knowledge, back end knowledge, go around the back way into the nightclub, whatever you want. It doesn't matter because I just don't think I don't my heart of hearts believe, and that's what I go with because I think that's what I've been trained not to go with. So I'll go with the opposite. Um, you cannot have an understanding and the wisdom of that understanding. Wisdom is not about knowledge. Wisdom is understanding what that knowledge means and where it fits into the context. So the reason why a computer can't understand what it is because it doesn't have an understanding of what the surroundings and the context or the universe it's been placed in. It doesn't understand its environment. It can live in its environment, well, not live, it can exist in the environment as a machine, as a posh calculator, I call it, but it doesn't understand its environment. It doesn't have the wisdom to understand its environment. And then you could take that back to the land of Nod and the dark sun and having no way of knowing where you are in your fixed environment. For somehow we don't know why we're here or what we're doing. We have beliefs and we have all of these beliefs, and sometimes you can feel things, but you know, but we do have this connection, this creative ability. We are something else. These people, I'm not saying the human beings because I don't buy into the non-player character thing. I hate all of that stuff. I think that's just a way of that's just eugenics with the technical term. It's like saying people aren't people because you don't agree with them. It's utter bullshit. They might be deluded. I might be deluded. I might be an absolute nutcase, but I'm a nice person and I'll buy you a pint. That's all it really should matter. It's just knowledge isn't power. Being good to people, regardless of what you know, is a power. That's not knowledge is not a power. It's a power over other people. That's a control
Right.
system. And it annoys me that knowledge is not going to get you wisdom and understanding. My children have wisdom and understanding. They might have the knowledge of why they might have the knowledge of the earth, but they know good from bad. They know how to they just want to play and be care. As we get worse, as we get older, if we allow it. The system is made to get rid of wisdom and understanding and leave you with a bunch of knowledge, and then they put that into gold. That's your gold. That's it. Your knowledge. You've got a degree. Well, I've got a fucking degree, but also sometimes I fall down the stairs. It's not. It doesn't matter. What matters is how you treat others. It's really, really simple, and kids know that. That's the knowledge.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I know you know what I mean. And when we do this work, I see people propping each other up like I saw a podcast the other day and it was full of people that were the brightest minds in AI info, like looking into AI. And I'm like, they didn't say all they did is have a go at each other about whether we should use AI or not. But they didn't talk about any of the stuff that we're talking about in terms of the occult, in terms of the what it means, in terms of why they do what they do, what they believe in, their occult beliefs, their religious beliefs, their ideologies. It was should we use it or not? And that's like, well, they're happy for you to just argue over that. They don't want you to know why it's been implemented, what the reasons are. They think that they can use their knowledge to gain wisdom and understanding and put it in a machine. They can't because they don't have enough wisdom and understanding to know that they can't do that because it's fucking stupid.
Absolutely. Now, you said a lot of things there, Richard, that really deserve to be talked about a little bit deeper. Now, you're making a great distinction here. What is the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Well, knowledge is one thing, and knowledge in and of itself is not going to save you, is not going to help you. It's wisdom that is the helpful tool. Wisdom is knowledge applied. Now, you could know a million things and bring it all to nothing. It means nothing if you don't know how to apply it in the right way or in the right direction. You can have all the technical knowledge you want, but if you can't actually put it to use, what good is it? This is the problem that we have with this little thing called gnosis. And
Mm,
that's what all of these secret society groups are all about, gnosis, knowledge. It's not wisdom. And they can't bridge the gap to get there because they don't inherently have the wisdom because they haven't ever really sought that. Wisdom and the application of knowledge is bound up in a little thing called imagination. And that is something that human beings have that a machine does not. And that's why a machine cannot understand what it is in context, as you have spoken about here, because it lacks imagination. Now, there's two basic principles, the masculine principle and the feminine principle, that apply to intelligence or intellect. One is called will, that's the masculine principle. The other is called imagination, that's the feminine principle. That's what is lacking. And that is why they seek to get to this elevation, this spiritual knowledge of Bina in the Kabbalistic system. It's this feminine side, the divine feminine. It's imagination. Without that, there's no creative force. There's no creativity. You cannot make anything new. You cannot imagine anything. And thus you have this system that has been described as the archons in the Gnostic teachings. Remember, gnosis, knowledge, devoid of wisdom, can create nothing unto itself. It's lacking the divine feminine side of it, the imagination. It's only one principle at play. And that's what we have across the board with all of these occultists. They want to manifest their will into reality, but they lack the creative ability to do so because they lack wisdom, imagination, that feminine side. So they're only ever seeking after this masculine principle or application of it. And that's why they claim things out there in mainstream narratives about the patriarchy. Well, they're not incorrect because a lot of these people, these dark occultists who run things at the top of the power structure, they just want to impose their will on others. And that is a very masculine attribute when it comes to the philosophical or metaphysical side of things. So they're not incorrect in blaming that, but they've misconstrued it and taken it into a whole different direction and gave us militant feminism, which is
mm.
nothing more than just another application of will or the masculine side of things, just with a slightly different face to it. And it still lacks the wisdom to apply the knowledge. And this is where they're trying to bridge the gap. So they want to use machine learning or artificial intelligence to be able to fill in the gaps that they lack and they think they could get it done. That's why they've programmed AI to do things like create art and to produce literature and do all of this stuff rather than do the things that people want AI for. I want my Rosie the robot maid to clean my house. Okay? I want my flying car.
Yeah.
I want a robot or something to do the dishes for me. So I can create things, not the other way around. So this is why we've had this misapplication of AI in this way. And it's hard for a lot of people to come to terms with this because it always ties back to the occult. Always, always, always. As much as I wish that wasn't the case, it's always there. And even though some of these Kabbalistic people that we look at all the time here, Richard, may have slightly different viewpoints than, like, say, the Thelemites or the OTO or these other more dark, on the face of it, occult fraternities and stuff like that have, they're all working towards the same ends, and they use their minions, the technocrats, to get there. And certainly we see that in the development and implementation of these technologies is where that leads.
So one of the things David said, but I don't think he's the original person that said this at all. It was it takes a lot of knowledge to create the atomic bomb. It doesn't take a lot of wisdom to use it. Don't use it. It doesn't matter. Knowledge without wisdom is going to kill us all. And this is where we are out. These people don't have any wisdom. They are lunatics. They have lost the plot, literally lost the plot. And as you say, they all use the same system across the board because they don't have creativity. So they use the same system. They might have slightly different variants on it, but it's the same story. The same story of working its way up the maze. It's exactly the same story. So once you figure out one, you figure out all of them. They're just slightly different dressings for the same thing that goes over and over. And you're talking about, I think most who's listened to this might have come up with or just tweaked on the fact that you said binary is the wisdom or binary. I mean, clearly, binary is obviously the ones and zeros to create the knowledge inside the computer. So it's all there. The words they use, the binary word, so the non-binaries are you can't create, or they can't create a they can't create a number between 1 and 0. That's what they're trying to do. They don't they don't really have the understanding to create this gap and that bridge between the ones and the zeros. It doesn't exist. And again, you can revert that back to what we were saying earlier about the bridge over troubled waters. There's two ends to the bridge. They're trying to create a completely different shape or reality that you can't picture because a bridge has two ends. What else does it have? You might have four ends, but it still goes across. It goes across. A line has two ends, 2 points. What is in between it? Well, there's a start and a middle. We don't have. They're trying to create something that doesn't exist, but they don't have the imagination to do so. If that makes sense, it's like they know the binary. The other thing we were speaking about was color, was the red and the blue. So the red being this male aspect, this aggressive will, and the female being protective and blue, and the Shekinah of that, and the protective in the Kabbalah of protecting, the Techelet, I think they call it, was the color, this deep blue of the sea or the sky that protects the Ark of the Covenant, which was, I believe, purple underneath. Which actually something I really wanted to ask you, confused me for ages, for waffling on. Why are both purple and black associated with Saturn? I've never understood that.
Well, because Saturn is the dark father, first of all. Saturn is also the master. He's the master builder. He's the master mason. It's the number. It's the color of mastery. Purple is the color of mastery, and black, of course, represents something darker. Represents the dark side, the black side. Let me pull up what I have here. I can tell you a little bit something more about the colors here as they pertain to purple. Okay, so we have indigo blue is the color of occultism, and the dark indigo partakes of the evil, the element of sorcery to a certain extent, the left hand power, while the pure indigo is emblematic of pure occultism. Violet, being a very high rate of vibration, is the color of magic because it is so far above the ordinary rate of vibration that it has the power of neutralizing and even transforming those rates into its own, thus giving the power of alchemy and other magical activities. Purple being blue mixed with red, therefore, the positive aspect of emotion, astral matter, positively expressed, is the color of mastership. And when we see in the aura of a person, it always indicates the master. So there you go. So that's why this link with the black and the darker that it is, the more it represents the left hand path or the dark side. And that's what the path of Saturn is. It's the dark side. It's the taskmaster. It's not only the master, it's the taskmaster. He's a cruel, vindictive taskmaster. Now, the energies of Saturn can also represent some good things, but largely it's been hijacked by these occultists to represent the dark side of things. So that's why it represents that. And I'm glad you brought up this notion of color, and especially the color purple, because that's been showing up a lot in recent weeks, hasn't it? Have you
Mm.
noticed that Trump lately has been wearing a purple tie? Why do you
Yeah.
think that is?
It's fascinating because obviously the blue and the purple, you have the Republican and Democrats, the polarities together, they create. I mean, I've always said that about you don't have a you have two the separation of the purple is the blue and the red. So that's clearly showing you that you don't really have a political choice at all together. But it's interesting that he started to wear the purple almost like they've actually kind of they've gone
Yeah,
beyond that now.
did you notice when he started wearing the purple?
I didn't know.
With the death of the Pope that we just covered, remember?
Right.
The Red Lion and this combination, this arisal of the new Roman Empire, the alchemical wedding of church and state, the mixing of the masculine and feminine, the blue and the red, once again to create this purple, the master, the color of the master builder, and all the other things that we talked about as this being an alchemical marriage or wedding
Mm,
between not only the church and the state and the arisal of the new Roman Empire. But when you look at this color in terms of alchemy, we talked about the Pope, the new Pope representing the red lion. Well, this is the fulfillment of their great work is what they're looking for. Now, another color that represents the fulfillment of the great work is purple, the color of mastery. And all of this, I just did an episode of the Alchemical Tech Revolution podcast on this, harkens back to something that happened 9 years ago to the day of the death of the Pope, of Pope Francis here. Remember, he died April 21st of this year. Well, in 2016, on the very same date, April 21st, the rock star Prince, the purple one,
mm,
died. 9 years to the day. And of course, this is also Queen Elizabeth's birthday, remember? So the White Queen and the purple one and the Red King and the Red Lion all combined together, and we have all of these things being pre-echoed, and the number 9 being an important number in the occult. It's a number of the completion of an octave. So we're talking about a new process, a new world order being founded, a new type of royalty being established here in this way. And of course, they've shifted everything over to the West now, to America, being the foundation of this new Roman Empire, as we talked about all the symbolism out there in that. And now we see the alchemical ties with the colors associated in this. And of course, who did they use to implement their notion of the red lion and the red king to bring about the golden age? Well, the orange man, who's now wearing the purple tie, representing the third piece in the Trinity. We have the red and the blue. We have the Freemasonic organization represented by blue. We have the Jesuits represented by red. And now we have the purple. We talked about this stuff on the past episode, I think episode 11. We talked about this, how this new Pope, this Pope Leo the 14th, symbolizes this union
mm.
at the top of these various facets of the power structure. These infighting secret societies are now unified in their course of action. And it's all about this founding of the new Roman state, if you want to call it that, the new Roman Empire. And they've elected and put in place their new emperor, their new Caesar. And he symbolized that with the purple tie, which he just started wearing when the Pope died, interestingly enough. So I don't know. I mean, you could look at all this stuff and make of it what you will. I just find it intriguing that when you tie alchemy in there and you look at the representation of what the symbols of the colors mean, and you look at all the other things we've pointed out, how it all seems to line up in the timeline of events, doesn't it? And you could go back and look at the death of the rock star Prince to see all of this presaged and pre-echoed. So there's a lot there still to unpack.
Well, there always it will be because it all matches over the top of each other. Like the Philosopher's Stone, I was looking into. So the sequence to create the Philosopher's Stone, it changes from black to white to yellow, and finally purple or red. So purple. But yes, it's that's the Philosopher's Stone. It's the great work, isn't it? It's the what is there's other terms
It's the
for it?
completion,
It's a completion. Yeah. What's the other term for it? It was the I was only right about this the
the
other
great
day.
work, the philosopher's stone, the magnum opus. That's
That's
probably
the
the one
one.
you're thinking of.
Magnum
Yep.
Opus, yeah. It's this is where they're heading towards and, very quickly. And it's quite clear and quite obvious that they're doing this, but I just don't with the technology, I think they're stuck. What do you think? What's your thoughts of the point where they'll get to this point? I don't believe they'll get past knowledge at all. I don't think they can do. I don't think they have it in themselves to even get past knowledge anyway. But I don't think it's possible here. Well, I think the wisdom and understanding is innate to every single one of us that we can't get past that to become the crown kettle, whatever you want to call it, in terms of the Kabbalistic tree of life. I'm not saying I believe in this stuff. I'm just trying to use their system so I can describe it in a way that you'll understand and can have a look at. So, which is quite obvious when you look at it. So, when they get to this point, are they gonna fake it? Are they gonna say, "Oh, we've got this, this Rehoboam in Solomon's temple, and it is all the wisdom and understanding," but then they'll know that, in fact, it's just a big data machine, or are they gonna try and convince themselves that they've actually done it? And what I've another thing I'd like to put on the back of that is when they say they're worried about AI taking over, they're not talking about it taking over me and you. We'll be long gone. Like, I'm not talking about personally, but of humanity as we know it will be long gone. They're worried about Terminator style, it taking over them. So there must be an element of them kind of believe that this could be achieved.
Well, there's different levels to this category of who you would call the controllers of this place. And I've tried to break it down as simply as possible. At the tippy top, most levels of the power structure in this world, you have what I call the dark occultists who run things, and just beneath them are their minions, the technocrats. Now, many of the technocrats are bought in hook, line, and sinker to this whole model of materialism, of hyper materialism that they sell to us. And they think this is all there is, just this physical material world in which we live, and all phenomena could be explained away as some physical cause and effect sequence. So they believe in things like secular humanism and moral relativism, and that this is all there is. There's no spiritual concerns beyond this. So they work towards the achieving of the development of this artificial intelligence or this transhumanist singularity to be the culmination of their fulfilled destiny as becoming evolved to the next level, to the post-human state. And this is sincerely what some of these people believe. Now, there's others, it's a mixed bag as to what they believe, but you'll notice most of the people that are actually dealing directly with the implementation and use of the technology, they're just arguing over should we use it or not? Or how
Mm,
are we going to use this? They're not thinking in terms of the spiritual consequences or anything of the sort. They're just talking about the physical nuts and bolts things that you could see and develop this for. So these are the ones that are largely bought into this hyper materialist paradigm, this way of thinking that our modern science has brought us to, where they completely disregard or disconnect the spiritual concern from this. Now, these are the people that are lacking that wisdom. Okay. Now, above them, some of these dark occultists at the top of the power structure, they know what they're doing. They know what they're building. They know it's all false. It's all based on false pretense and that it's not going to work. But they see it as being good enough of a simulation that they could be the gods of this place, that they could control this in a way that they would not be able to otherwise. You see, they're building the world of shells, and I know we've talked about this before. It's a world devoid of spirit. When you take the spiritual side out of everything, well, all you have is a machine. Let's put it that way, something devoid of life. So if it's devoid of life and it's a machine, well, you can take it apart and put it back together again and make it work when and how you want and do what you want it to do. It lacks animus, it lacks a spirit, it lacks a function. Now, the problem here is, and this is where it gets a little concerning, what it is that these technocrat minions that are primarily the ones doing all the work here, what they don't realize, and that what these dark occultists who run things do, is you cannot have a manifestation in the physical without some type of a spirit form manifesting in the physical form. Now, this is something that they would prefer you not think about because they know, they inherently know if they build this system where they merge the physical body of man with the machine, the big beast network or the beast system, they're going to create this form, this physical being here that does not belong in this reality, and it's going to be devoid of spirit. So in nature, nature abhors a vacuum. Well, the same could be said
Mm.
here in terms of spirit. So there's going to be a spirit that manifests in this body, and it's not a spirit that belongs in this physical world. And these dark occultists who run things know this, and many of them are influenced from the outside by some of these spiritual intelligences which inhabit the abyss or the void or the land of Nod, this space between man and God. And this is what they want to do because ultimately the void is chaotic and it's formless, and they have no means of expression therein. And this falls back on some of the things we talked about earlier with the notion that Crowley put forward in Thelema with
Mm.
this going across the abyss, this crossing the abyss, this day off system. So you can see once again the one-to-one connection there. So what this is doing is this is taking the disembodied like beings or spirits that are devoid that divine spark. They want to have access to this physical reality so that they could manifest here and have individuation that they don't have in that abyss, void, the primordial chaos, as they call it. So it's all about the embodiment of this in a symbol called Karanzan, which we talked about earlier. This is the dweller on the threshold. This is the guardian of the abyss, as Crowley called it. And this is what is blocking the way, at least according to the occultists, to get to the spiritual realms, where the Godhead resides, and where you could get to that. Now, this is what their viewpoint is. Okay, I think they're totally messed up in their ways of thinking about this because, in my view, there's nothing that can separate you from the love of God. Okay? There's nothing. Jesus Christ came and he made a way for us to have that connection to God, one to one. All right? So there's not this void or abyss between man and God. You could have your relationship with God and not have to worry about crossing that primordial void, that chaos, this kind of thing, like the occultists have claimed. So it's kind of a misnomer, but this is what they believe and what they act on. All right. So they think that in this system, they can access this void and that they themselves can achieve that divine wisdom. They could get to that system of Bina so that they could be creators and create in this physical reality. But what they don't realize is those evil spirits, those backwards spirits that actually manifest in that abyss, as it's called, they want to take manifestation here. And that is what their ultimate goal is. And the dark occultists who run things are seeking to make that happen because they are guided and directed by many of these disembodied evil spirits in this way. Now, I hope this makes sense to people out there. And I do, once again, reserve the right to be wrong on all of this stuff. But from everything I've looked at, this seems to be the most logical explanation as to why and how the controllers of this place act in the way that they do. And it seems that this is at the heart of all of it. And it has to do with this transhumanist singularity and the snapping in place of their system, which seeks to bring that type of a thing to manifestation here physically. And they think they could do it, but they lack the divine wisdom. And that's the problem. And they think they could get it artificially. They could take the shortcut. And if you've ever talked to anybody who knows anything about alchemy, there's no shortcuts to the great work or the magnum opus as it was originally intended. But all of these people who have taken these ideas and brought them forward have inverted the original principles, and they've taken these alchemical ideas and misapplied them in ways where they cannot possibly achieve anything of notoriety themselves. They're attempting to make the shortcut and they don't understand it. They lack the wisdom to know what it is they're dealing with, and they'll still wonder why they fail. And they will fail. And
Mm.
that's the bottom line with all of it. They will fail because they do not have the wisdom. All they've sought is the gnosis or the knowledge, and they don't have the ability to wield that wisely. So, therefore, according to natural law, their attempts will fail miserably. and we'll come to another Tower of Babel moment. So I know I've talked there an awful lot, and a lot of that's a lot to take in, and I hope I don't lose minds out there speaking like that.
Well, to back up exactly what you said there, that fits in exactly with the research I've been doing in over the last few years in terms of the Jeffrey Epstein situation, of what he was doing there. And as much as that sounds like it doesn't connect, well, I'll connect it for you. Aleister Crowley had something called the Babylon Working Ritual. Babylon Working Ritual is Rosemary's Baby. That's exactly what it is. Look at Moonchild. It's just the Rosemary's Baby version one. It's the same story. And in the Rosemary's, I'm sorry, in Moonchild, which was written by Crowley, they take these young girls that they want to use to birth the Antichrist child into a vessel to their butterfly's nest, is what it's called, where they take them there. Now, this is the Babylon working ritual. Now, this is something that Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard um, tried to do together in New Mexico. I believe it was somewhere near New Mexico. That's why when I go back to Zorro Ranch all the time, I said there's something else going on there. Juliet Bryant, who was a Epstein survivor, said she woke up paralyzed, naked, underneath, well, on a laboratory table while she was at Zorro Ranch. There's something going on there. I believe they were using them women to steal eggs to create this vessel, as you just said, this perfect vessel to bring in this soul, which is what the Babylon working ritual is. That's what um, Moonchild's about. Moon again, Shekinah. Is about, and that's what Rosemary's Baby is about. You have the Queen. I'm sorry, you have Diana and Kate Middleton wearing the Rosemary's Baby dress. This isn't a coincidence. They are trying to make a vessel, and I'm not saying these young women want to do that. Of course they don't. They're all being abused and used to create this vessel. Now, technology has come along since then to be able to do it in that way, but you've got these Epstein victims, these P. Diddy will be involved with it, St. Bart's, all of these islands. Abramovich, who's a very, very close funder of Putin, basically owns most of the things on St. Bart's. That was where other people have gone there and been trafficked. These women were being trafficked. That's right close to Epstein Island. This doesn't sound like it's all connected, but it is. George Church was funded by Epstein. He's a transhumanist. They're trying to make, in my opinion, the perfect vessel for this being to come into the world. I absolutely believe that everything I look at, I think that's what it leads to, and it involves all of these different things, and that's what exactly what you're saying. They're trying to bring about this entity from another world into this. So when you talk about the Stargate, they're talking about the person. They're creating this technological framework for shell, as you say, the world of shells, to insert this being in. And the strange thing is when you look at the Kelly pot of what they say the Gentiles are in the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, we're a shell that covers the husk of the divine light that they want to free. And that's even bloody there on the symbology of when Diana was killed and JFK. They used the eternal flame to free the spark. They want to bring a different spark through, or dark spark, or whatever they want to call it. But they're creating a vessel for this, and it's quite clear to me. You cannot tell me that L. Ron Hubbard, Jack Parsons just happened to do a Crowley ritual in near New Mexico. There's Trementina base there. And then this connects into what I've been saying in Columbia University, where they held a um, particle accelerator underground. Why would they have one there? That is got Shekinah protected Tekla roofs as well. Why would they have a particle accelerator? Well, that was used in the Manhattan Project. Trementina, Trinity site, New Mexico. I think they were trying to open up a portal to get something in using atomic weapons, and it has nothing to do with atomic weapons. It has everything to do with opening up a portal. That's what
Yeah.
I've come to.
Okay. Here's another question then for you, Richard. Are you familiar with the works of James Shelby Downard?
No.
You're going to have to read that. I will send you some stuff. James Shelby Downard, he talked at length about this. Now, he was a master at this synchromystic metadata decoding. Okay. Before I came up with this name for it, he was doing this. He was brilliant at this. And he's the guy that wrote the book King Kill 33 with Michael Hoffman. Okay. And he's also written some other things, and he talks extensively about New Mexico, the land of enchantment, and all the different connections there. And you're probably unaware that when the Manhattan Project, when they did the first initial nuclear blast, they had a mannequin inside the blast area. And he speculated they were trying to bring a spirit or manifestation into this mannequin. It's the old homunculus idea. It's the Rosemary's
Mm.
Baby, the moon child, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. And they were trying to do this with the use of the explosion of this atomic weapon for the first time, where they famously said, I have become destroyer of worlds, where they're quoting Shiva, the god of destruction in India. And they have no this is all mainstream, by the way. You could find they had this mannequin or something put inside the blast area in the bomb casing, and they have no plausible explanation as to why they did it. Okay? Nobody ever tried to explain it. James Shelby Downard talked about it. And as far as that goes, I think he understood what they were truly trying to do with the unleashing of the atomic bomb. It wasn't about making a new weapon, it was about opening a gateway for a spirit that doesn't belong here to manifest here. It's the old notion of the homunculus, the golem, once again. So, at any rate, all these things always have their ties back to the occult. As much as people want to deny that, as much as I wish it wasn't the case, it's always there. That's what I tell people. I sound like a broken record, and I can't help it because every time you look at it, it's always there.
It's
And it
always there.
explains everything they try to do.
Even with let's connect another thread here. Klaus Schwab's father, can't remember his name, but he run and then Klaus Schwab run it later, a factory in Germany that was basically sealed off from being destroyed. It was protected. Now, this factory, Klaus Schwab ended up managing it, but his father did before, produced parts for atomic weapons. It was protected. This atomic weapons, and it all goes back to New York, Columbia University, Manhattan Project, goes back to all of this stuff with I'm very skeptical about the what's the not the ship one, not the Phoenix Project, the other one, um, Montauk Project. Very skeptical about the Montauk Project because the people I know have been it, leading names who talk about it are Kabbalists. They've written books about dark to light Kabbalah, and they fund well, they donate to Habad Lubavitch. So it's all connected. You don't need to connect, and they connect themselves. You literally just look at it and go, that is so obvious. So I completely agree with you. They're trying to open up portals to have something in, and this is what we've got at CERN right now. They're trying to let something into a vessel. It's quite clear. They've got Shiva at the front of that. They're doing rituals and mock rituals. I mean, what's a mock ritual? I mean, I don't know what a mock ritual. As if a ritual isn't. What's a mock ritual? You're either doing it or you're not doing it. Like you might not be burning a child in a boat, but the mockness of it is you're doing the actions or you're not doing the actions. It's not a mock. It's just a ritual. You're doing exactly the same thing. It's like going up to a theater and saying, watching the theater and saying, "Well, that was a mock theater show."
Oh, it's
But
performance art, Richard. Don't you
performance
know
art,
that
yeah.
that's how they pull off these rituals all the time. They call it
Oh yeah.
performance art, and there you go. And then it takes all the mysterious of it away from the public mind looking at it. Oh, it's just for show. It's just for spectacle. It's performance art. Yeah,
We're just
okay.
opening a tunnel here in the middle of, is it Switzerland?
Yep,
Yeah, not far from it, with all of these things shooting out the tunnel. It was clearly it was clearly a portal with all these I mean, even a goat head one came out. It was
yep.
ridiculous. And then they do it the same at the Olympics. They do it the same same at the football. They do it at concerts. Half of these pop stars end up doing them. Lady Gaga's. They're rituals. They're quite clearly satanic rituals. They're opening up portals. They're summoning these energies from somewhere else to try and put in this bloody homunculus thing that they can call their new antichrist. It's insane. It's ridiculous. But they are doing it and they are hurting a lot of people in the meantime and killing a lot of people. They believe in it at various levels. But that's exactly, I've come to the same conclusion. It's quite clear that that's what they're doing. But these atomic weapons, They all got atomic weapons pointing at each other. Why don't we all get rid of them? Because they need them to open up a portal into the other world. Ghostbusters, for fuck's sake, was in New York, and they showed you at the top of a building for a fridge. They told you they opened up the I mean, it was a great film, but they were showing you in New York, or was it Manhattan? I pretty much it wasn't even in the second one, they had the Statue of Liberty, ISIS walking across the bloody city. It was showing you what they were doing, and a lot of it is done in New York and New Mexico, and then you have Israel and the United Kingdom and other places, but Switzerland obviously with that as well. So it's it's quite clear, isn't it, what they're doing? And I don't understand why anyone else isn't talking about this. They'll argue over whether we should use AI or not. It's not really the
Right.
big worry I have.
Well, just don't cross the streams.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that
Right?
means yeah,
That's remember that whole trope. Now that's exactly what they do in the particle colliders, right? They cross the streams and then they collide. They
right.
create the collision.
Yes, they do.
They
Yeah,
tell you all the time out that truth in the entertainment and lies in the news. Let's put it that way. We see that all the time. Truth in the movies, lies in the news, and they tell you the truth in these fictional projects, but you just don't have eyes to see and you don't pick up on it at the time.
yeah,
And that's all part of this synchromystic metadata idea. It's out there. They tell you in no uncertain terms what it is they're doing, what their intentions are, and they put it out there well ahead of time, but you won't recognize it until after the fact. When it happens, when something similar to it happens in real life, as we would call it here today, this is called revelation of the method. When you could look back at this and see, hey, they told us they were going to do that. And now we see that they told us that. And this creates a type of learned helplessness in people. And that's exactly what they want. It reinforces the mind control programming in that way. And we have to not take that stance with it. We have to be outspoken about exposing this stuff, certainly, but we can't just let it slide by then. And the whole problem with all of this is nobody's ever being held accountable for these things. People realize what they're up to and what they're doing, but nobody's holding them accountable. And I think we're seeing some of that coming right into the main focus of the world at large. Like, where's the Epstein client list still? Where did that go? Now, all of a sudden, you have what's his name from the FBI, the Cash Patel, and the other guy uh, that was,
Bandong Dingo. I can never say it, but it always makes
yeah,
me laugh when
whatever
he
his name
say
is,
like, yeah,
Bongino or something. Yeah, whatever his name is. Well, now these guys who were formerly outspoken about bringing the truth out, well, now they're saying, well, yeah, Epstein killed himself. Really? How stupid do you think we are? And it's because it's coming from officialdom now, from the people that the people elected into office or think that they elected into office or whatever, the ones that they think are going to drain the swamp and make all these good things happen. Now they're telling them exactly the same thing that the previous administrations and stuff were, and now they're eating it up. And there's still no Epstein client list, and still nothing's been done. What was Epstein arrested for again? Trafficking human beings, trafficking children. To who? Who? When are you going to hold these people to account? We as citizens need to really pressure our governments and stuff like that into holding people to account and releasing this information. It's gotten to be where they're getting away with it. And this is all part of the revelation of the method process. Okay. They showed you. Oh, now we know what they've been up to in the dark for years and years. They're doing horrible things to children. They're trafficking children, and nobody's been arrested. Nobody. Nobody's coming to the light of day. You know why? Because many of the people that are in the positions of power are some of the culprits, and they need to be held to account. And how are we going to get there? I don't know. I don't have the answer. But we need to start being a little more outspoken about these things and demanding that people be held accountable for their actions, because this stuff is heinous and cannot go on, and it's not going to remain hidden forever. And in fact, we're already seeing a lot of it trickling out to the light of day. So it's time that we demand more from those people that are supposed to be public servants or serving us, as far as actually going ahead and doing their job, the law enforcement and these various agencies that are supposed to protect us from these various things, they need to be held at account. And if they can't hold the people responsible to account, they need to be held to account. That's where we need to be at. If you're covering up for somebody and you're in a high level intelligence agency position, you need to be held to account. You can't be doing this stuff. Like, it's not right. And I think it's just catastrophic on the face of it that people aren't incensed about this to the level that they should be. That all of a sudden now you have these new directors in the FBI and they're still doing the same old stuff that's been going on all the time. And they're holding the party line, they're towing the party line, and they're claiming Epstein killed himself under all these mysterious circumstances. Everybody in the world pretty much knows that's not how it went down, guys. We don't buy it. They they know that we know that they're lying, and they still lie to our face, and that's all part of this process that they call revelation of the method, because they want us to know that they got us, and it kind of invokes this sense of powerlessness in the people, and it's not right. And we need to demand more from them. We need to be very vocal and outspoken about that. So Badandi or whatever your name is, Cash Patel, you guys need to be held to account if you do not provide this information and hold those people responsible accountable. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think that they're shocked at the depth of this. They don't understand when they get there that these things have been going on underground. These children are brought up into these systems. There's a lot going on underground. And I think that one of the biggest issues is the alternative media won't speak about these levels of things for fear of being feeling like they're stupid or looking like they're idiots. They want to be political. They want to stay on the level of talking about transhumanism, technocracy on a level that doesn't go into the underground tunnels or go into the underground systems of where these children are being born into these things and into these transhumanists. Do you want to know where those children are going? Who they've been trafficked to? Look under the islands. Look under New Mexico. Look under New York City. Look underneath. As the film says, don't look up. They weren't being trafficked to individuals in a sense. They were being trafficked into a program that's going on right under your nose, under the water, under the land, and you've been told about this, and it's so bloody obvious that the reason why the alternate media won't speak about it is because they want to be taken seriously as journalists. Fuck that. Do what's right. I'm bored of it. Do
Right.
what's right. If you're only going to swim around in circles in your own little crevice and going around and talking about the same subjects over and over again and not bother to learn outside your perspective understanding, then you're not going to get anywhere. This has been going on for thousands of years, this type of stuff. And you'll say, yeah, it used to go on. It goes on now. Epstein was part of a transhumanist agenda. You know that. Where were these children going? What were they talking about? Who's George Church? What was under the island? Where did the cement trucks going? Why won't you speak about the real in-depth stuff? I know why you won't, because you want to be taken seriously as a journalist.
Right. And here's the thing, Richard. Here's what gets me, okay? If two guys like us, just regular guys, if we have actually dug a little bit and discovered all this stuff and we know all this, don't you think the intelligence apparatus of this world, the most highly funded and most sophisticated advanced intelligence apparatus in the history of the world, that they don't know this?
Of course I do.
Well,
Mm.
yeah, either number one, yes, they do, or number two, they're completely incompetent. And neither one of those is an acceptable outcome. Let's put it that way. Neither one of those is acceptable. So they need to be held to account. They need
Well,
to
they,
start holding the people who have committed these crimes to account, or they
well, they can.
themselves need to be held to account for their incompetence.
Well, that's the issue, though. They're complicit at the very top, and that's the issue, isn't it? You're not going to arrest yourself and chuck yourself in jail when you've been complicit in all of your systems. And I think Chris Bandan or Dan Bandingo and the Cash Patel have got in that position and have absolutely clueless and gone, "Oh shit, this is real." Look at their faces; they look terrified. They didn't realize the depth of this. But anyway, that has been a fantastic episode. Thank you for joining us, Wayne. Where can they find your work and follow what we're doing? We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with another episode.
All right. Well, they could find me at www.alchemicaltechrevolution.com. Where could the good people find you, Richard?
Video work, iconic.com. You can find me on WhatsApp, so WTAF Rich on X, and Substack. You can find me under Some May Conspire. And we will see you in a couple of weeks' time. But remember, this stuff is so deep, and it annoys me that very few people are going to go to that depth of looking into it just because they want to be taken seriously. Learn to just not take yourself that seriously. It's what is true is true. Don't censor yourself. If you find out this stuff, report on it and then
Right.
let it go.
I think that's our mandate.
Mm,
We need to tell people what it is that we've found when we've dug deep into this and
mm.
invite them. You guys could go find all this stuff yourself too. Go look. It's all out there in the public record. It's all out there in public domain. It's not hidden anymore. They've stopped hiding this stuff because they know nobody's doing anything about it. So they don't care that you know, but go look for yourself. You might be shocked at what you find.
Yeah, yeah. Look under the islands. See you in a week, couple of weeks' time. Take care. Bye.